Okay, this is the first episode of Zion Blueprint, and I've got a good friend with me here. And we came together through very interesting means. Someday we'll talk about that. It's not even quite a baptism by fire. It's something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's spiritual boot camp.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, a spiritual boot camp. This is Shane Kelly, a good friend of mine, and he is involved with a behind the curtain modality, which we're going to talk about today. And this is called First Things First. So at the first of every month, we are going to do something called First Things First. And if you know anything about me and what I've been through, I've studied economics, governing principles of Zion, organization model, all that, plus the architectural design. I've been on the temporal side for a very long time, writing and promoting that whole side of things. It wasn't until about 8 months ago that I was thrown into the whole spirit warfare of things. And that was an eye-opener.
Huge eye-opener.
Huge eye-opener. And that's what First Things First is really about, because we can't be a people with one heart and one mind if your own heart and your own mind are not in sync. So we're going to talk about this, and it doesn't have to be esoteric, but it is kind of deep. And if you give us a little bit of time, we'll go about 35, 40 minutes. So we're going to talk about this. So what is a fractured person?
So what can happen is when people go through trauma, and trauma is subjective. For some people, that's eating your dad's meatloaf. For some people, that is getting in a car accident. It's just subjective. So because trauma is subjective, there's not really any point to defining it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to skip that step.
Okay.
But if you can understand and wrap your head around the idea that heavy trauma can be very impactful. And people are like, well, yeah, of course, that's what trauma is. It's impactful. It affects your mind, it affects your spirit, it affects your body, right? Right. But what people don't understand is that it can actually do something more than that. What it can actually do is it can actually fracture part of your spirit. Now, at a very extreme case of this, to keep this very surface level, we would call a severe traumatic experience that fractures a person. We would call that multiple personality disorder.
Okay.
Or the psychology community would call that DID.
But these could be fractures of yourself.
Yes, they're fractures within yourself.
Okay.
So one of the radical ideas that Keith Redford has discovered, which is the principle behind all of this healing that is helping so many people right now, is that there are fractures that we see in movies like Sybil and what we think of commonly as multiple personalities. And the current psychological and even a lot of religious leaders' ideas of how to fix this is to destroy them, get rid of them.
Or to relive the trauma so you can face it and then overcome it somehow.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, that's possible, but that's a very uphill battle, and you are being forced to relive some of the worst moments of your life again and again. And Keith said this once, and I never forgot it, Keith Redford. And he said that it's really hard to believe in a loving Heavenly Father who would make and allow something horrible to happen, and the only way to heal from it is to relive that same moment again and again and again. That is as far away from mercy and love as I think you could get. That's almost, I mean, that sounds like torture to me. That's torture.
Well, it stems from Otto Rank, who wrote a book called The Trauma of Birth. The very fact that we're born into a mortal existence with pain and suffering, that's trauma alone.
Yeah.
And most psychologists think we need to go back to all that trauma of birth and relive it. And that's not what you guys are talking about.
No. Not what we're talking about is that, especially at a young age, before your mind is formed, and I think that's where this idea comes from and why it has some level of merit, but it's not, well, let me finish that point first before I go on. If you go through major trauma, especially as a child, before your mind is fully formed, you don't have the mental defenses you need to understand what's even happening to you. And so what occurs is that there are fractures of your spirit and of your mind. And these are not demons. These are not problems. They're a piece of you that is fractured off to hold this experience and try to protect the whole. So if you could imagine a classroom, now all of us have been in school at some point or another. And some classrooms you're in where the kids are just running amok. They're hitting each other. They're running around the room. Maybe they run up to the teacher and take the chalk out of her hand and push her aside and say, look, I'm going to teach today. And some classes are the exact opposite. And everyone sits down and they listen and they keep their hands to themselves and they behave. And basically what we're seeing and what we're starting to understand is that people are not so much one person. When you look at someone, you see just one person. But if you could see inside of them, what many people are actually a classroom. And most of those classrooms are pretty well organized. They use a model of organization and performance by committee, right? And that works pretty well for a lot of people. Now, the extreme cases are the ones we think of as multiple personalities. That's the situation where a person has a classroom where all the kids are running amok. And so what we found is that these are actually pieces of you. Originally, in the beginning, you were all one. But through coming down here, going through life, and the tribulations and the difficulties that are naturally part of this life, there are fractures and splinters that come off from the main body. And so healing isn't kicking everybody out of the classroom. Healing is actually bringing all of the students back together with the teacher to create one. That's restoration. That's real healing. Now, that's not to say there aren't trespassers or evil spirits. They are in there as well. There's a mixture. And so in order to really heal somebody and take them to a really good next level state, what you need to do is divide which are the pieces of you. Let's put those back together to become one like you were in the beginning. Which are the pieces that are not you, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're going to remove those. And then that brings you back into a holistic state that many people have never experienced.
Well, let's talk about that for just a second. You're talking about trespassers that are not fractures of yourself. They could be fractures of somebody else or a deliberate demon that's working a number on you. And that does happen, folks. For example, you can be walking down the street, you see a homeless person, and they look absolutely crazy. They look bonkers. What's going on there?
What's going on is if you could actually see beyond the one that you see with your physical eyes and you could see inside of their mind, what you would find is you would find 20, 30 or more different pieces in a complete chaotic mess. Imagine a classroom where every kid in the class is screaming something different.
So some of those pieces are they that themselves,
yep,
and others could be trespassers can come in,
yep,
and possibly some could be demons. We'll explain the difference in those three. But there's all these pieces, and they're fighting for dominance.
They're fighting for dominance,
or protection, or
fighting chaos. They're fighting for all different kinds of things. But the point is, they're all fighting.
Yeah.
So imagine trying to live a life in a classroom surrounded by 30 people who are yelling different things all around you. If you listen to people, and sometimes you'll see this, you will notice that some people who are just not quite as grounded, they will tell the same story 2 or 3 times. And sometimes we think, oh, that's just old age. And sometimes, though, this happens to people who are not in old age. They're like midlife or younger. But when you start to notice that someone who is showing symptoms of telling the same stories over and over and over again, and I don't mean the first time and then a month later you see them, I mean the same conversations, and they're telling you the same story with slight variations again and again, that is a good indication that you are talking to multiple people. So there's multiple people in the background of their mind that want to tell you their story.
Or just multiple fractures, and those fractures aren't given a voice. We're going to talk about agency here, but they're not given any voice. So that comes through you as a host, per se, because you're the only means for having that fracture or that entity give them voice at all.
That's exactly right. It's kind of like if you are a dad and you come home and let's say your family got into a minor fender bender with your wife and all the kids. All the kids want to tell you their version of the same story.
Right.
It's the exact same thing. And so when you start to open your mind to the possibility that the one person you see in front of you is the illusion, and the reality is there's a fractured mind behind what you can actually see, and that's the reality, and that you're not talking to one person, you're talking to multiple people, you start to see things differently. You start to see that in people differently. When you talk to somebody who talks in circles and they're basically saying the same thing, but they just keep saying it, that's a good indication you're talking to multiple people, even though all you see is one.
Or they don't even need to say the same thing. They're just loop-de-loop.
Yes.
They're just making a comment for the sake of making a comment because they desperately want to be heard. And it doesn't have to be in the context of the discussion that everybody is working on. It can just be, I need to be heard. I need to be heard. And they constantly are just speaking without thought.
Yeah, it can manifest in a lot of different ways. There are obviously some people who are desperate just to be heard. That doesn't mean that someone's fractured, but it's kind of like that old what's that old comedian that talked about, you might be a redneck if.
No.
Same kind of idea. All these are symptoms. They're not a diagnosis. All of these things are indicators. They're not a full-blown, oh, you definitely are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you've been frustrated or angry at any time and you kind of don't know where it's coming from, and it could have been triggered by just about anything. I don't like the word triggered, but you see what I'm talking about. It could be fired or ignited by whatever means. And you have an angst inside you. I've learned through this guy teaching me that I compose myself, I quiet myself, I go into a prayer mode, which is really a meditative mode before a prayer mode. And I just look around and I say, and I've done this. This is just my personal witness. Again, this channel is about truth and testimony. So I'll testify that I've been in a situation where I'll look off to my left and I'll see a hand or a foot wiggle around and try to hide out. And I'll ask them, what are you doing here? And some will admit they've been sent here to irritate me. Others found me and they're asking for a way out. And then I'll give them a way out. And here's where the modality with Keith Redford is so different. About a month ago, Tucker Carlson had on his channel a Catholic exorcist. And in a lot of other Christian religions, they have their exorcisms, but they treat all of these entities, fractures, or even trespassers, as just straight out demons.
Well, yeah, they treat them as an unchanging, very scary, R-rated adversary. Mm-hmm. And so Satan's got basically two big lies he tells people. One, he doesn't exist at all, and neither do demons, right? So if they don't exist, we don't have to worry about them. We don't have to talk about them. We can just ignore them. Right. And that just it plays into their hands.
But that's hard. This gentleman who was on Tucker Carlson's show, I forget his name, he said it takes weeks and sometimes months for healing to take place.
No.
And explain how easy and less traumatic, far less traumatic, the healing is with behind the curtain.
So that's a great good segue. Let me just add the last part. The second biggest lie that we are told is that these demons are scary. It's, if you ever talk to one, it's going to be an exorcist rated R movie kind of experience. And it's just not the case.
It's not the case.
So if you believe that all of these evil spirits, demons, whatever you would like to call them, trespassers, that they all originally come from God, that they are part of God's family, then that means that they made a choice at one point, and we as members of the church have a really cool doctrine that we believe in, which gives us more information about this, that there was a war in heaven and some people decided to follow God and some decided to follow Satan. But in the beginning, we were all one big family. And so what that means is the trespassers or evil spirits that we're dealing with today, they were once our brothers and sisters. So what that means is we are locked in a very serious family battle with our eternal salvation's at stake. It's a big deal. Now, if we could take that one step further, I want you to look around the world today. Do you see people today who have, obviously they've chosen God's side because they came down here to earth and they're in a body, but they've chosen to follow Satan. And if they've chosen to follow Satan, they've changed their minds, right? Which means agency is still at play. And if that's the case, can we not flip that same idea around and ask the question, can evil spirits change their mind and choose to join Jesus and Jesus' side? Is the atonement infinite? Can it be used for them? And my question is, my experience is that you can help them return to Christ and go through the repentance process and change sides. Just like we have people down here who originally joined Jesus' side or God's side, and they have now changed their minds and they are following Satan. The final day and the final judgment hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And I think agency is very much at play, not just for us, but for them as well.
Let's talk about agency. Before we do that, I want to give a witness to what Shane is talking about. If you sense there's something in you, here's what I've been doing. If I sense something that's been there that shouldn't be there, I'll say, I'll give you a choice, because this goes back to agency. You can either go back to where you came from, because you're not allowed to be here, or you can take the hand of Christ. Keith Redford talks about a ball of light. You can take this light and follow the light if you want light. I went right to the Lord, and I says, I invite the hand of the Lord inside me, and I'll see it in my mind's eye. There's the hand of the Lord. And some of these entities, not necessarily demons, but trespassers or those that are subversive to darkness, but they haven't been given agency in a very, very long time. And I'll sense that they'll grab the hand of the Lord and they're gone. I mean, it's instantaneous. It's fast. But every once in a while, they'll turn their head to me as they're leaving and they'll say, thank you. And then they're gone. It's like the speed of light on octane. It's really interesting. But to me, I think the what Keith Redford is talking about and what they're teaching is this modality to help heal yourself rapidly and not having to relive the trauma. But let's talk about agency, because I believe that the whole modality that you guys are doing is going to explode on the scene, because I don't like to call you guys exorcists, but that's what they call them in other Christian religions.
Yeah.
Right. What would you call yourself?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the first phrase that comes to mind is a missionary. Honestly.
All right.
We're helping people choose Christ.
Yeah. If
that's not what a missionary does, I don't know what is.
So the only way you can choose Christ is if you have to give your agency back. So imagine a spirit that's been perturbed and it's been in darkness for a long time. In our culture, we talk about spirit paradise and spirit prison. We're talking about that spirit prison scenario where people are just stuck there for whatever reason. And missionary work is coming to them and saying, you can either go back to that realm you were at, and you know what that's like. There's no promises that are kept, and there's no purpose to live for. And then you give that back to them and you say, I'll give you a choice. You can take the hand of the Lord. But before you do that, I want to ask you, and this is where agency gets explosive, what do you think your purpose is? Do you think you've always had purpose? And you can actually talk to entities like that. I mean, it sounds a little weird, but it's true. You can talk to them. Your inner spirit can actually start to talk with them. And then you can give them not only a choice to go that way back to the darkness or to follow the hand of Christ, but you can also give them the idea that they have purpose. And if they fulfill that in righteousness, the Lord will keep his promises. He always keeps his promises. That is the full gamut of agency.
And it makes a huge difference, because in Satan's world, he's tried to strip agency, right? That's been his plan from the beginning, is control. And that's the opposite of God's, which is invitation, right? And come work with me, be part of this great work, this gospel. And
so you give them agency by just talking with them and giving them voice first.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because agency is a foundational principle of righteousness. It's what this whole thing is about. And if we try to combat and strip the agency from people who've already tried to strip agency from others, then it's just not effective. We're fighting an uphill battle. When the true healing comes, because I mean, that's what war is, right? War is one party trying to subvert and take over another party. And if we go in and we try to say, look, I don't care what you want, you're going to do what I want to say. Now we've got a battle on our hands. Now we've got a war. How much easier it is to help somebody heal if we say, hey, would you like to heal? If we walked up to someone, instead of causing war and strife and saying, look, you do what I want, we said, hey, what would you like? Let me give you some options. Now, ultimately, you can't stay here, right? You're a trespasser, you don't belong, but I'd like to honor your agency and I'd like to give you the opportunity for some healing. And that dramatically changes the conversation, because now you're on their side. You want to help them.
Right. But there's two things you're doing there. You're giving them a choice, which is basically a vote.
Yes.
All right. You can vote this way. You can go vote that way. But that's not the full breadth of agency. Agency is a vote plus you're giving them voice.
Yes.
And when you bring those two together, you are conserving and protecting a great part of that person's soul, that person's spirit. But I believe that when you involve them into purpose, they have creative energy, that they have something to offer. That's the trifecta. And I wear that on my wrist here. Voice, vote, and value. And I write about it in a book that will be coming out in just a few months called Silent Boom. I'll give a link to that in future episodes. But that's the full value of agency. You have a choice between yes or no. You have your voice heard, and then you have your creative juice, your value. That's also part of the same mix. And I think that's a whole dynamic. Imagine talking to a trespasser or a perturbed spirit and giving them that agency back.
Or just being on their side.
Just being on their side.
How can I help you heal? Do you like what you're going through? Do you like your existence? Do you like your life? Because guess what? They don't. And so you say, look, there's healing that's available for you through Jesus Christ, just like there's healing available for us. And if the atonement is infinite, it applies to everybody.
Mm-hmm. So you have trainings, and how
Yes.
long did the trainings take place?
We do two types of trainings. We do an in-person one, which I highly recommend, and that's 2.5 days. We go Thursday, Friday, and part of Saturday. And we do those about once a month. And then we do online trainings for people who can't attend, and that is about 3 hours, and we vary the time throughout the year based on people's availability and demand, and we do that about once a month as well.
Okay. We're going to come back to that. We're going to give what's the website right now that you can send people to?
It's behindthecurtain.com.
Behindthecurtain.com. Behind the Curtain. Isn't there another website?
Let me check.
Agency and Light. Are you using that website yet?
Yes, we're growing into that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see that one.
So agencyandlight.com. You can go there, or behindthecurtain.com. But I like the Agency and Light one.
I do too.
I know who created that.
They're all good. Everything that helps people heal.
Yeah. So behindthecurtain.com is where you really want to go to and check that out.
Excuse me, I misspoke. It's stepbehindthecurtain.com.
Stepbehindthecurtain.com. So we'll put a link down below, stepbehindthecurtain.com. So check that source out. You guys are giving trainings in Europe, Hawaii, Arizona, throughout Utah. I mean, it's exploding on the scene, isn't it?
We just finished training yesterday where we had people from Australia, Ghana, Canada. Yeah, so it's really cool. It's helping a lot of people. It's helped me a lot in my life.
This is going to be part and parcel of binding Satan in chains. I really do believe that, because when people can finally free themselves of the trauma and spirits that are there, I've known from my witness, and I've known from personal, really close friends of mine who know who you are. I've seen the before and after in you and these people, and whereas before they were under a cloud of doubt, a cloud of fear, a cloud of uncertainty, irritable, all kinds of stuff. And when they go through this, it's like a night and day changeover in people.
Everybody I have worked with, the first thing they talk about is the silence in their mind. That classroom goes away. And so it just becomes so quiet in their mind. And they say things like, I never knew it could be this quiet.
Well, I have roaring tinnitus. I don't know if you know what that is, where it's a constant buzzing sound inside my ear right back here. But I have went through this, and when you have that silence in your mind, even though I have the tinnitus, it was really eye-opening. The silence that you have is yours again. It's your whole soul. We're going to come back to that a little bit because we have some time. I want to talk about the types of trespassers or types of demons you were talking about. This doesn't necessarily have to be scary. It's just nice to know the differences in them.
I mean, on a surface level, what I would, in the short time that I would have, I would categorize them in two groups. You have the duped and the dedicated.
There we are.
So the duped are the ones who they followed Satan. They're working for him. They don't like it. They don't feel like they have any choice. When you give them an invitation to return to Christ, to be full of light, to change their lives, they're like, I didn't know I had that choice. I didn't know I could do that.
Let me talk about the dupe for a second. Okay?
Yeah.
Because I've come across those in my life. In meditation, I sensed that there was something wrong, and I saw 3 shadows. It's always on my lower left. Everyone's different. This is just my personal witness. So I saw them on my over left, and I invited them to either take the hand of Christ, or they can go back to where they came from. And 2 of them were cursing at me, and I asked the Holy Spirit to remove them. And actually, they didn't get removed. They were taken away. A black cloak came and grabbed them, and they were taken away. But I didn't know until later, and I came back and I was meditating. I wasn't quite feeling right. And I looked on my left. I says, "You're still here. I thought you went with the rest." And you didn't talk. He was deathly afraid. But apparently he ducked so that cloak couldn't take him, and he was there. He wanted out, but he was afraid to speak up, because if he spoke up, he'd be heard, and then the dark forces would come and get him, whatever. He was deathly afraid. And I go, "Would you like me to introduce the hand of Christ?" And I could sense in my mind he was shaking his head like that. And I just said, "You're welcome to grab his hand." And I invite it right in front of me, and he grabs the hand, and he's gone. So these are the duped kind.
Yeah. They're being forced to do something that they honestly don't want to do. They don't like their existence. They don't like what they're doing, but they've been told they have no choice.
They're in spirit prison, so there's no choice there.
Well, the father of lies told them they have no choice. They have no agency. I'll turn around and say, "Who told you that?" They'll say, "Well, the father of lies." I'm like, and you think maybe, just maybe, he might not have been completely truthful with you, maybe? And they're like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that." And so when you give these guys the opportunity to return to Christ and to repent, many of them, the large majority, jump at the chance.
Yeah.
They're excited to do it. They're
the minute you give that choice, in my experience, it's fast.
It's immediate.
It's like that. They're gone.
Yep.
As soon as that light shows, whether it's a hand of Christ or a ball of light, they see it. They haven't seen it in a long time. This is something different than what I've been oppressed with. I'm gone. It's like that quick.
Yeah.
So talk about the dedicated, the duped and the dedicated.
The dedicated are the more rare ones, but those are, you could think of them as more the generals in Satan's army, if you will. And those guys, it doesn't matter what you say, they are hardened. They will not change their mind. They are not going to choose Christ. They're going to go down with the ship, and they're fine with that, and their hatred is fixed.
Yeah.
As I have been told.
And when you get rid of them, what kind of power do you call upon to remove them?
I call upon the power of Christ.
Okay.
And I make the sign, and I ask for angels to come down and bind them in light and drag them away.
And I've been through that experience. Someday I'll share a deliverance experience, but it does happen because I personally believe that if you're on the cusp of doing something good, Satan wants to divert that. Just before you're about, like young men go on a mission, just before they're about to do something good, or women or whatever, there's an attack that can often have, because he wants to divide you from that good. Satan does not like our Father in heaven. He despises him, to be honest with you. And he wants to replace him, and he'll do everything he can to sever that connection. And so that's why it's important to pray over yourself, pray for protection, which we're going to talk about on the closing here. But what I want to talk to people about is, I've been through a session with Shane, and believe it or not, I was feeling kind of unsteady, and I was driving up north, and I was going to go see somebody and some other people. I can't remember what I was driving for. And I had an impression to call Shane. So he says, "Why don't you pull over and let's do a session?" So he's several mountains over from me, hundreds of miles away. And I pull over, and he tells me to get out of the car, and I first get grounded. So explain to me the grounding you took and the protection you asked me to do first.
I think we first should start with a prayer.
We started with a prayer.
And then we asked for that protection. And then what we did is we just did some breathing exercises just to calm everything down.
Yeah.
And I asked you to step out onto the earth.
Yeah. I took my shoes off and my socks, and it was rocky. So I stepped out on that and then explained what we did.
Well, what we did is I took him what we call behind the curtain.
Okay.
And we started talking to the different pieces inside of him.
So explain the setting that you put me in, so they understand what behind the curtain is.
So what I did is there are some different techniques that we use to take people behind the curtain, which allows us to speak to the different parts of them that are in what's the word I want to use, disarray, or in that are in, I don't want to say peril because it's not peril, but just really heightened traumatic emotional responses, right? They're having a really tough time. When we go behind the curtain with somebody, we help use Christ. It's all Christ centered to help pull all of those negative emotions out, deliver those to him, and then reorganize all of them back together so you can become one like we were in the beginning.
Okay.
It's a hard process to go through really quickly because there's a lot of steps, and there's some techniques that we don't want to share online. That's something we do and we teach. But
right.
Specifically, what's one part that you really liked that stuck out to you?
Well, it wasn't me going back in time and reliving some traumatic experience.
Right.
It was basically me standing on the stage and looking at a theater, and I was asked, "Do you see anything out of the ordinary?" And I looked around, and there was a one or two people that were behind a light fixture, the beam of light, the projector station, and we asked them to leave. And I still felt something was wrong because I'm a builder, I'm a general contractor by trade, and I know there's lots of places to hide. So I said, Shane, I think there's a foyer over there. And I remember we went over to the foyer, and I looked down the foyer, and I saw all these beady eyes. And then Shane invited them to leave.
Yep.
And that was after I did that. It was I didn't have to go to that thing that I was going to. I even forget what I was driving up north for. I solved it. Shane solved the problem, and then I went back home, basically.
Your emotions, how you felt afterwards, radically different, right?
Yeah, it was like, when you are at night and you're walking around the house and it's dark and you feel like there's something foreboding there. That foreboding was gone. It wasn't like a constant drumbeat. And now, after having gone through that, now I just practice on myself. I do what I subdue the heart, and I humble the heart before my Lord, or I humble the heart before my fellow man, before my wife. So subdue the heart, quiet it down, and then I humble myself. And then if I sense anything there, I'll talk, and I say, okay, why are you here? Now I'm learning that that's probably bits and parts of myself. So I'm now talking with myself, and I'm trying to reintegrate. That's a whole nother scenario. But the training that they offer, I believe it's going to trump all the psychoanalysis that's out there, all the psychology that's out there, and I mean all. And I've read some of the deepest stuff in psychology, beginning with Ernest Becker, Otto Rank, William James, even Freud. I know the whole story of Freud. I know the whole psychoanalytic movement, and none of that has ever really healed anybody.
That's just what I was going to say. The reason this is so different from the regular psychologists or psychiatrists today is that you will go to them for the rest of your life. And things will get maybe marginally better, but you're not really getting the healing that you were going there in the first place to receive.
Right.
Now, what we do is we take it back behind the curtain. It's going to be a couple hours. By the time we're done, we're not just helping you heal. We're giving you all the tools to help you continue to heal yourself. This is not a keep coming back to me. Once I take you through the curtain, I teach you everything, and I take the time to do a full session with you, you're going to have all the tools in your tool belt to continue to help yourself so that you'll never need me or another practitioner again.
And it's not scary, and it's not painful.
Right. You don't relive any of your past traumas. You don't even have to talk about them, which is great.
Now, I'd been through a deliverance session, and I'll admit that much. I won't go any further. And that wasn't painful. It was a bit of a fright for a little bit, me in an emotional state. But after that, it was nothing compared to going to a psychoanalyst, him digging up my past, him digging into for things that didn't even exist, manufacturing even stuff that wasn't quite there. And I've never been through a psychoanalytic session like that, but I know how they operate. I worked in the prison system for a while, teaching inmates, writing skills and reading skills, and I would learn about all this counseling they're forced these prisoners through. And just imagine all the altars and fracturing that's in people like that.
The reason they're in prison is because they've already got fractures.
Right. We call them team fracture.
Yeah.
We don't call it team negative. We call it team fracture. For those on the inside, you know what we're talking about. Anything else you wish to talk about?
Let's see. Anything else I'd like to say? I just like to tell everybody that this healing modality is so powerful. I've actually seen it with my own eyes. It will actually heal from the lowest trauma all the way up to multiple personalities, PTSD, because it's all centered in Christ.
Right.
And so I have done all kinds of self-healing stuff. I've gone to seminars, I've done therapy, I've paid tens of thousands of dollars for personal coaching, you name it, I've tried it. And I've always felt kind of broken.
Yeah.
And it was just this feeling inside of me that I could not shake, that I knew something was wrong and I couldn't figure out what. And it wasn't until I went through this and I came out the other side completely different, feeling inside so much different.
I want to share a scripture with you because we were going to bring this up at the beginning. This is in the Doctrine and Covenants, and I believe it's in Doctrine and Covenants 26 or thereabout. Upon my fellow servants in the name of Messiah, I confer the priesthood of Aaron, which is a Levitical priesthood, okay, which holds the keys of ministering angels, okay, and of the gospel of repentance and of baptism by immersion for the remission of sins. But there's that key there, the keys of ministering angels. So what you're basically doing is you're teaching people how to minister angels.
I guess in a way, yeah. Yeah.
And deacons are supposed to have this power. Deacons, you're supposed to be ministering angels. All right. Why are we not? We should have like a summer BYU camp or something, or a spirit camp or whatever. Zion camps. There you go.
That's not a bad idea.
Check out the link for Zion camps. We got one coming up in November. We'll be posting that out pretty soon. If you have never been to a really genuine Zion camps without team fracture getting in the way, I'll be just blunt like that. If you've never been to one, you need to attend one. It's phenomenal. We'll have Shane there. We'll have all kinds of people there teaching this. But you deacons out there, at that priesthood level, you should be administering angels, which is really a catch-all phrase for knowing how to help people deal with trauma, deal with spirits, fractures of themselves, fractures of altars that are in there from others. You should know this stuff. This should be like common.
This is the most important thing. They say that the only sure things in life are death and taxes. But I've known some people who've escaped taxes, and we read in the scriptures about some people who escaped death.
Right.
I'll tell you what isn't escapable, and that's trauma.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have trauma down here. And we never talk about how to deal with it, what it can do to us, how it opens us up to the adversary. And I just feel like this has completed and filled so many gaps in my understanding and brought me so much closer to the Savior. It's just remarkable.
So if you don't have any protection, if you don't do a prayer protection, you're going about your day, and you can run. I go into a job site and I'll have some crew just swearing and cussing and having absolutely loud music. I can feel its effect on me. I literally have to just calm myself down before and calm myself after. Because if I go into it with an agitated spirit and I'm upset at them, it's going to get even worse. So this is what it means to pray always, to constantly be aware and alert of the intrusions that can take over.
You're exactly right, but it's worse than that, because this happens at Walmart. You'll just walk down Walmart and you'll just walk by somebody and you'll just feel this like, oh, what was that? What did I just walk through? I just suddenly feel so down. I just feel so negative all of a sudden. What's happening? It's because someone that you walked by is just carrying a lot of stuff, and some of that stuff is impacting you. So we are being impacted on a daily basis from every angle. And the more we know about this stuff, the better we can protect ourselves, the better we can protect our families. Yeah.
So we've gone 40 minutes here, and I really want to emphasize, go to his website, get some of the training. This is going to explode on the scene, and that's why this channel was launched, to help spread truth and testimony. People who can testify of the truth that they found, and then people can have voice regarding that. We're going to talk about economics. We're going to talk about the actual design of Zion. We're going to talk about the governing principles of Zion. But the first of every month, first things first, we're going to be talking about the Spirit and how to win that war. And I don't like to call it a war, but we are in a war whether we like it or not.
Whether you like it or not.
It's there. It's kind of like if you're in East Germany and you're a Jew and you see all and hear all this stuff coming, and you knew in advance what was happening, but you kind of pushed it aside. You said, no, that's not going to really happen. But then others got the whiff of it and they were gone and they were out of there. But you just say, well, I don't have to deal with it. And then pretty soon it's on top of you. Pretty soon that spirit of darkness is overwhelming you. Now it's even more difficult to get rid of, because you have to actually confront bits and pieces of yourself along the way eventually. I'm not saying that this whole process is really tedious. It's going to take 15 years of healing, like most psychoanalysts will tell you. But it just gets more difficult. So the sooner you just open up to say a prayer, Father in heaven, should I go through this training? Yeah. Do I need this training? And then if he's prompted, then reach out and see about this. But this I'm excited about this.
Well, this feels like the first time in my life I actually understand what's going on in the world, what's going on with people. And I understand and see the world in such a more greater light and understanding. And it really, there's this Oriental proverb that says it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Yeah. And I feel like there's so many of us that are asleep that we don't even realize we're at war. Yeah. And we are not prepared. We don't understand. And so the more we understand this stuff, the better prepared we are. And maybe this stuff will never touch you. I don't really believe that, but anything's possible. And maybe you can stay in the garden. But just in case, I just think we're all better off understanding and prepared for the war that's all around us.
Yeah. And I'll end with this. I had a personal talk with Keith Redford. I'm Keith Kelch and he's Keith Redford. We really dialed in on each other. Pretty cool. But he actually has 200 cases of multiple personality that he has successfully helped correct.
Yep. Heal.
Imagine that. 200 people. We're not talking about an irritant spirit that's bothering you.
And we're not talking people who say they have a problem. We're talking about people who literally have diagnosable multiple personality, and they call it DID nowadays, but that situation going on. And that is one of the most traumatic.
What does DID stand for?
Dissociative identity disorder.
Well, dissociative identity disorder. Multiple personalities.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I thank you, Shane, for coming, and we're going to do this often. We're going to talk about this modality, talk about the war that we're in and how you can prepare for it. Shane and I want to work with Keith Redford on this. We want to get a simple booklet of prayers that really kind of apply to Latter-day Saints as well as all Christians, prayers that you can say. And I know that they've helped me after the experience I went through. I had to pray to protect my family, protect my home, because once you remove something, it wants to come back.
Yes.
All right. So you really have to protect yourself from wanting it to come back. And we'll talk about that on the next time. But that's something you've experienced a lot in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to go into that more when we have more time. But yes, I have.
I got to read his mind. He goes, that's going to be 15 minutes.
That's going to be a few minutes. Yeah. But let me just end with one last thought, if I could.
Go ahead.
So we want to build Zion. I want to build Zion. That's the desire of my heart. And what we learn about Zion is it's one heart and one mind.
Right.
And what I have come to understand through all of this is that most of us are not one heart and one mind within ourselves.
Right.
We are divided inside of ourselves. We can't have a society that's one heart and one mind if we don't have families who are one heart and one mind. Yeah. We can't have families who are one heart and one mind if we don't have couples who are one heart and one mind. And you can't have couples who are one heart and one mind if you don't have you, the individual, one heart and one mind.
That's why it's first things first.
First things first.
First things first on Monday, first of the month. We're going to talk about this. We're excited. This is the first post coming out on the 4th of July, the 250th anniversary of our country. And I believe a new founding is upon us.
I agree.
New renaissance, new founding, and we're excited to be a part of it. Tune in next time. Subscribe to the channel. Check us out at Zion's camps. Check out Zion Papers. Check out behind the curtain, or go behind the curtain.
Step behind the curtain.
Step behind, I'll put a link below, stepbehindthecurtain.com, and also agencyandlight.com. Check out those websites. We have more websites that are coming, references you can check out. We hope to see you at one of those events. Until then, see you guys next time.
And leave a comment.
Leave a comment. Yes.
Yeah.
Please leave a comment.
Ask some questions.
That helps the algorithm. We'll see you guys.